If you have an Apple Watch, there's a good chance you're not using it to its full potential. There are a ton of hidden features that make this one of the most powerful devices on the market. But if you don't know them, then you just have a workout tracker with notifications. So in this video, I have 48 tips, tricks, and hidden features to show you to unlock your Apple Watch and turn you into a power user. And while I'll be demonstrating these on an Apple Watch Series 11, many of these work on the Series 10, 8, 9, all the way back, including the Apple Watch SE and the Apple Watch Ultra series. What I'm saying is, as long as you have a modern Apple Watch, these are going to be working for you. So let's start off with number one. Now, most people are aware of Apple Pay on their watch, but did you know you can also add boarding passes to your watch and scan them when you board a plane? So if your hands are full and you don't want to get your phone out, you can have it ready to go on your watch. You can do the same thing with other passes or tickets or even student IDs. And in order to do this, simply add the passes on your Apple Wallet on your phone, and then on your watch, double press the bottom button, and that will bring you into your Apple Wallet. You can then scroll down, find the pass that you want, and tap into it. It's either going to show you a QR code or a number or the opportunity to tap to scan. Number two, did you know you can actually disable stand reminders on your Apple Watch? So if you're in a wheelchair or you just don't want to stand all the time, or maybe you're standing at a desk and it doesn't recognize that, you can do this on your watch. You go to settings, you scroll down to activity, and then toggle stand reminders either on or off. And here's a really cool trick for working out with the Apple Watch. Did you know you can actually chain together multiple workouts to make one big workout? So maybe you run and then do some push-ups and then run again and then maybe walk or cycle, whatever. Or you can just do a basic triathlon. You can actually create that with your watch. And in order to do that, you simply do the workout you want to, and at the end of it, swipe over, and instead of ending it and starting a new one, you tap on the plus. This will allow you to select the next exercise in your workout and string them all together into one big workout. The Apple Watch is also really useful for unlocking your Mac with your Apple Watch. So on your Mac, you go to System Preferences, then go to Security, and then go to General, and you can set up the ability to unlock your Mac or your MacBook using your Apple Watch just when you get nearby. Now, not everybody wants to wear the Apple Watch on their left wrist with the crown facing towards the wrist. Maybe you wear gloves, maybe you're left-handed, whatever the situation is, you can change this by going on your watch, you go to Settings, go to General, and then change the orientation. This will allow you to have the crown on the right or the left and have the watch on your left or right wrist. That actually does make a pretty big difference. So those are some cool features with the Apple Watch, but let's talk a little bit more about Siri. One of the cool things you can do with the Apple Watch Series 11 now is simply raise and start speaking, and Siri will listen and do whatever Siri does. Also, did you know you can actually use Siri to control things on your watch? So for example, you can ask Siri to start a run workout that's going to have a goal of 5 miles. Start a 5-mile run workout. And one of my biggest complaints with the Apple Watch is when you're working out, the buttons don't really do that much for the workout. It's still like the Apple Pay button. It's still going to summon Siri, all these different things, instead of just having like, pause, stop, next lap, things like that. And while you can pause the workout fairly easily, you can actually ask Siri to do this for you. So if your hands are sweaty and you don't want to swipe over and like it's just not working out for you, you can ask Siri to pause or stop a workout so sweaty hands are no longer an issue. Also, if you are in a place that you don't want to speak to your watch, but you still want to use Siri, you can actually enable Type to Siri on your watch. So maybe this would be if you are like sitting in a tree stand hunting, or if you're in a meeting and your phone is doing, like you're not using your phone, you don't want to take your phone out. This is a good way to silently use your watch and essentially access Siri. So to change this setting, you can do this from your iPhone. You go into the watch app, you then go to accessibility, then you can scroll down to Siri, and you can toggle on Type to Siri. Next up, let's talk a little bit more about gestures and customization of your watch. Of course, some of the new ones coming to the Series 11 this year is the wrist flicks. So if you have anything going on, an alarm, a timer, whatever, or if you just want to go back home from the smart stack, you can simply flick your wrist, and as you can see right there, it just ends the timer and brings me home. Also, you've double pinch or double tap essentially, and this is useful to scroll through different apps hands-free. So if you're looking at your watch and it's awake and you double pinch, you'll see it brings up the smart stack, and you can then scroll through it by double pinching. An easy way to manage that if you're only using one hand. Also, did you know you can actually just palm your watch to mute it or to silence it? That's an easy setting to change by going into your watch, going to gestures, and then toggle on cover to mute. Additionally, the buttons do more than most people realize. So if you are trying to multitask between multiple apps on your watch, or if every time you lift your watch, for example, it just brings you back to the watch face and instead you have maybe a stopwatch you want to open, you don't have to go back and find that app every time. You can double press the crown and it will show you your most recent apps you had open. So it's an easy way to switch between them or just open a recent one you used. And If you find that your Apple Watch just goes dim way too soon, you can increase the wake duration, something I do all the time when I'm filming these watches, and it's really easy to do. So you go on your watch, go into settings, and then scroll down to display and brightness. From there, you can scroll down to wake duration, and you can make it up to 70 seconds. Some people don't like this feature on the Apple Watch, but if you notice on the bottom, the little smart stack, sometimes it'll auto launch different things such as media playback or timers or things like that. And if this is something you want to change, you can open the Apple Watch app on your iPhone, scroll down to general, then tap on auto launch. And from here, of course, you can decide if you want to have the auto depth feature. We'll talk about that later. Or you can tap on live activities on the top, and you can either allow live activities there, or you can scroll down and choose individual ones and say, all right, every time I start a stopwatch, I don't want it to be there. You can disable the auto launching on that for Smart Stack. And the same thing can be done for many different apps. And while we're here, you can go to settings, go to general, and then return to clock. This is something that if you want to customize for each individual app, maybe for example, you want a stopwatch to stay open, maybe you're a coach, for example, you can change the setting right there. Now, while the Apple Watch is great for tracking sleep, let's be honest, we do have to charge our Apple Watches pretty much every day. And so a lot of people charge it overnight. And so if you just buy or maybe 3D print an Apple Watch stand for a charger, you can put your watch on there and it enters nightstand mode, showing you the time. It's something you can disable in settings if you wanted to by going to settings on your watch, going to general, and then tapping on nightstand mode. I like it because it shows you the clock, but if it's too bright while you're sleeping, easy to turn that off. And when you're using the Apple Watch, did you know you can actually take screenshots by pressing both buttons simultaneously? So maybe if you are busy and like you just hear a really good song you like and you want to take a screenshot so you can remember it later, you can press both buttons at the same time, and that will take a screenshot. If it doesn't work for you on your phone, you can go to the Apple Watch app and then go to general settings and make sure that is enabled. You can also adjust how your notifications show up. So by default, you're able to see a little notification. You could tap on it. It shows the full notification, or you can even hide notification details if you wanted to until you tap on them. You can customize all of this by going on your phone, go to the watch app, and then tap on notifications. One of the biggest reasons to use an Apple Watch with your iPhone is that you can sync up focus modes between your watch and your phone. So if your phone's set to work or sleep or exercise or whatever focus mode you want, you can actually sync that up with your watch very easily and have some customization to your watch. So if you go on your phone and go to settings, not Apple Watch app, just settings, and then you scroll down to focus and then select the focus mode you want, maybe work, for example. And from here, you can scroll down to customize screens, tap on the watch to choose it, and you can choose a different screen for each of these different focus modes. So maybe you have more of a professional looking one for the work environment, or maybe you have a crazy one for going out with your friends. And if you haven't done this yet on your Apple Watch, please do this right now. When I press the crown on the right side, you'll see that it just shows like the whole honeycomb of all the apps. And if you have a lot of apps like I do, it is really annoying to go and find the correct app. Like you have to just memorize where everything is, but there's an easier way to do this. If you scroll all the way down to the very bottom, you can then tap on list view, and now they're all in alphabetical order based on their name. So if I know, hey, I'm looking for the camera app, I just scroll down to C and it's right there. I find that so much faster to find the apps I'm looking for. But you can customize the arrangement on your phone if you want to use that kind of honeycomb style, and you can put the commonly used ones at the top. This is really easy to do, again, either on your phone or on your watch, but I like to do it on my phone. It's just a little bit easier. So if you go into the watch app, then tap on app view, then tap on grid view, tap on arrangement, and you can tap and drag these anywhere you want. Next up, this is more of an app specific one. It's kind of fun. I don't know if most people use this, but the Walkie talkie app actually works really well on an Apple Watch. And if you just go and use it, it's just an easy way to talk with somebody without having to frequently call them. And it's kind of a fun thing to do if you're both in the same house. Maybe like you and your wife or you and your kids could use this. It's kind of a cool feature to have. But speaking of connecting to different things, the Apple Watch is able to connect to AirPods or Beats or really any other Bluetooth earbuds or devices and listen offline with Spotify or Apple Music. I personally really like to do this if I'm going for a run. I want to leave my phone behind, just not having to carry it. It's really nice. And like I said, you can just go onto Spotify or Apple Music and choose playlists to download so you can listen to them offline. In order to connect them, it's actually really easy with AirPods and Beats, but anything else, you can go into settings on your watch. You can then scroll down to Bluetooth and just scroll down and add a new device. And by the way, a huge tip, if you are going on any kind of runs or workouts, you can supercharge your Apple Watch in terms of accuracy by getting the Apple AirPods Pro 3. I've tested a ton of heart rate sensors, and the AirPods Pro 3 just blew my mind with how accurate they actually were. Like I had to double check and make sure it wasn't connected to my heart rate strap. And like, because it was just that accurate. These were really, really, really similar. And when you have the AirPods in and you're using the Apple Watch, Apple will automatically look between them. And as long as there's a good signal and they're both getting good heart rate readings, it's going to get the most accurate reading possible, which in my opinion, I would say is almost definitely going to be using the AirPods sensor. Back to notifications on your watch, you can actually choose which notifications are coming through because like I said, most people use an Apple Watch just as a fitness tracker with notifications. And I find it so distracting if I'm getting a ton of notifications on my watch, and eventually I just stop looking at them. But you can choose which apps come through. So maybe you want messages and phone calls, but you don't want the Ring doorbell to always be showing up on your watch. So in order to do this, from your phone, you can go to Watch, then you can tap on Notifications, and you can scroll down and select which apps you want. So maybe, for example, if I don't want messages, I can tap on Messages, and it's either going to mirror your iPhone, or you can customize this and you can say, hey, don't make sounds, but do have the haptic vibration, or you can just say, don't enable notifications at all for that app. And if you want to take notifications a step further on your iPhone, you can enable silent mode by going to Settings, then go to Sounds and Haptics and disable any kind of sounds, essentially so you don't have a ding on your phone and on your watch, or, just I find it annoying to have dings on my watch. I'd rather just have haptics, and so silent mode is the mode for me. But if you do want sounds on your watch, you can have automatic sound adjustment in the same settings right here. So based on your surroundings, it'll have a louder or quieter ding, so it can essentially adjust to what it's hearing in your surroundings. Now, all of the newest Apple Watches, including the Apple Watch SE 3, have an always-on display. So essentially, when you're not looking at the watch, it still shows you the time. But you can customize if this is on or off, and also what it's actually going to show you. So on your phone, if you go into the Apple Watch app, go to Display and Brightness, you can then tap on Always On. So you can choose complication data, you can choose live activities if they're showing up like timers or workouts, for example. You can choose apps, notifications, or you can just disable the Always On display entirely if you would rather have your watch be dark, like that. You can also customize the smart stack. So if you scroll down, you'll see right now I've got my heart rate, my sleep score, the sound, and things like that. If you tap on edit on your watch, you're able to add other widgets on here, and you can customize that as much as you would like. For me, I find the smart stack to be the absolute most useful feature on the Apple Watch. And so it just makes sense to customize that so you can see information that's relevant to you. Now, getting into another category of just general cool features on the watch, you can actually choose the noise threshold in the Noise app. You know how your Apple Watch always notifies you if you're in a loud environment? I personally really appreciate that, but you can customize it and most people don't. So on your iPhone, if you go to the Apple Watch app and then scroll down to the Noise app, you tap on that. For one, you can disable this if you don't want notifications. Maybe you work in a loud environment and you're wearing earplugs. You don't need that notification, but you can also change the noise threshold. By tapping on that, you can choose if it's going to be 80 decibels, 100 decibels, or anything in between. Additionally, Apple now allows us to use the Notes app on the Apple Watch, so it's not really like a tip, trick, or hidden feature, but it's a cool thing that I would recommend using if you're on the go and you want to take some quick little memos. Also, if you use your Apple Watch to go on like a casual hike and maybe you're not tracking it necessarily, then what you can do is you can press and hold the bottom button and then select Compass Backtrack before you go on your hike, and you can explore wherever you want and easily retrace your steps to find where you started without ever getting lost again. Most people were really excited about the real-time translation on the Apple AirPods Pro 3, but you can actually do something very similar on the Apple Watch. So if you open up the Translate app, you tap on the three dots on the top right, you can then autoplay translations, and you can go down and have on device mode, which is going to download the languages for a faster translation. And that's pretty close to real-time translation, so you can have a conversation with, say, an Uber driver in another language. I mentioned a couple things already, but let's talk more about fitness and health with the watch. So one thing that's really cool on the Apple Watch is called Workout Buddy. So before you start a workout, so say I'm going to start a run, for example, you have 4 corners of things you can tap on. So the top left is going to allow you to customize different workout views or metrics, what's going to be shown on your screen. And I highly recommend customizing this because maybe you care more about calories, maybe you care more about pace. Everyone runs for a different reason, and customizing it for your needs just really makes sense. Then you have the top right where you can tap on goals and targets. You can customize what your goal is for the workout, or you can actually scroll down and have a pacer or a race route. On the bottom left, you can have music and you can turn on autoplay media. So again, if you're connecting this to your AirPods, when you start running, you can automatically play a playlist so you don't have to go and set that up every single time you start a workout. And on the bottom right, like I said, Workout Buddy, if you tap on that, you can turn on Workout Buddy, and this is going to essentially have, you can choose what the voice is, and this is going to coach you through, again, your pace and things like that. The Series 11 and the Ultra also have depth gauges and temperature sensors, so when you're swimming or snorkeling, I showed you in the live activity settings earlier, this will automatically show up as soon as you go underwater a little bit. So try it out if you're snorkeling or swimming around. It's kind of a cool feature to have. Also, if you have a ring streak going on, so every day you close your rings and you want to pause that without losing your streak, maybe you got injured, maybe like you're traveling, maybe you just had a baby and you need to take a week or two off from doing that, then you can actually open the Rings app on your watch. So if I just scroll down, so if you scroll down to activity, I just call it the Rings app, I don't know why, but you can tap in the middle of your rings and you can either change your goals or you can pause your rings. You can choose if it's just going to be for today, for the week, for the month, or some custom amount. The Apple Watch is also able to notify you if you're getting sick. So if you go into settings, go to notifications, and then go to vitals, you're able to make sure that you are getting notifications based on your heart rate metrics and your HRV and different indicators that your watch may see. And that could be a great opportunity to say, hey, maybe you should take like some extra vitamin C, or maybe don't go out on that huge bender tonight because your immune system really needs some extra sleep. If you do a lot of running or cycling with your Apple Watch, you can enable or disable auto pause. So essentially, if you're running in a city and you get to a red light and you just want it to pause because like that's going to ruin your pace, then you can go into settings, then you can go to the workout app and you can simply enable or disable this. And before you go on any workout, if you're running or cycling in kind of a sketchy area, a dark area, or some other dangerous area, you can enable check-ins so that you're able to stay safe and have somebody else track you while you're doing your workout. And then there's some really cool ones with cycling. Cycling with an Apple Watch is actually a pretty great way to ride a bike because you don't always have to like look down at your watch. Instead, you can have your phone mounted in the middle and it'll automatically appear as a live activity and just port all the information over. So you, like I said, don't have to always glance down at your watch while you're trying to ride a bike at 25 miles an hour. Now, I mentioned modes earlier in the video, but I recommend creating custom modes for workouts, for driving, for travel, or other things, and you can actually choose how these are going to be triggered. This could be a manual trigger that you turn on, like you just go into focus mode, for example. Let's talk about some new features that came to the Apple Watches this year. One is hypertension notification. So if you have high blood pressure, this is something that your watch may be able to detect signs of and notify you. So make sure you have those settings enabled on your watch, or at least have the notifications enabled on your watch. So if that happens, you're going to be notified of that, and eventually you can either get help or see a doctor and confirm what your Apple Watch is telling you. Also, the satellite SOS and messaging is a new feature rolling out to some Apple Watches, not the SE or older watches. But this is a really great feature if your phone is not around. Maybe you're in a canyon and unfortunately like you get stuck or lost. You can use this to contact emergency services, or if you're camping off grid, you can use this to message someone back home and just let them know like, hey, I'm still okay, I'm having a good time. Apple Watch has added sleep score this year as well, and this is something that's rolling out to all Apple Watches with the latest watch OS. So even an older Apple Watch SE 2 from a couple years ago does get this feature, and it's really easy to use. So if you scroll down to sleep, you can tap on that. It'll show you your sleep score for the previous night. And if you tap on the little eye in a circle, little information, it'll tell you why you got that sleep score. So you can see it's really based on 3 numbers that add up to the total points. So you have duration, you have bedtime. So if you're going to bed at a consistent time every night, and you have interruptions throughout the night. On your phone, you can also go into the Apple Watch app, go to sleep, and you can customize some notifications here. So if you want to track sleep or not with Apple Watch, you can turn that on or off. You have charging reminders. And of course, you can make sure you have sleep apnea notifications set up on your watch. So that was, I believe, 48 tips, tricks, and hidden features, possibly more in there. But let me know how you use your Apple Watch. What are your favorite features that I didn't mention in this video? Of course, leave a comment down below. And since you enjoyed this video, if you want to learn more about tips and tricks for the AirPods, I'll have that video linked on one of these sides. You can go and check out that video next. Thanks for watching. I'm Michael Bryan, and I'll see you in that next video.